Good afternoon. We'll give this a go here. We are doing mealworms and more today, so we're going to talk through any questions you've got about mealworms, small business, raising them, growing them, keeping track of them. Any questions you might have about any of the processes we do here. It's an open forum. If you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the comment section there, and we'll get to it. Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're at. My name is Justin. I run Midwest Mealworms. I'm a mealworm guy here. If you guys have any questions about mealworms, raising mealworms, processes, things we do here, anything like that, please feel free to throw a comment in here. This is our first YouTube live Mealworms and More. I've been doing them on Facebook in our Mealworm Farming Co-op group. So hopefully I can see comments if you guys throw them out there. If somebody would be kind enough to do a mic check and an audio check. I'm going to disappear for a second while I turn off the filter behind me. I'll be right back. All right. I saw some comments and then they disappeared. There we go. Cheryl, hello. Julie. Hello from Oregon, Cheryl. Julie. Thank you for the question. What or how do you use or dispatch your beetles after you were done with them? Really good question. So what we do, I'm trying to think how many we might go through here. Sounds good and looks good. Thank you, Cheryl. Julie, video, audio, good. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to tackle Julie's question. As you guys have more questions, please throw them in there. Let's keep the good times rolling. I am probably going to stop at the top of the hour, which for me is 2 o'clock Central. But if we get rolling and get into it and there's a lot of questions, we might just continue tackling those. And the recording will be on the, will be posted to YouTube after they process it and chunk through it, make sure everything's cool. So definitely do a follow here, please. So, Julie, what or how do you use or dispatch your beetles after you were done with them? So right now, what we are doing, we probably go through, I'm going to say like 3,000 or 4,000 beetles a week that end up getting culled. So to kind of set the stage, a mealworm beetle, after it's hatched from the pupa, it's going to take about 4 to 7 days to get to the point where it's ready to either mate or lay eggs, male or female. And so there's that general week period there. And then what we do is we will keep those beetles in rotation for 2 months. So in ideal conditions, which is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% humidity, those beetles will lay 95+% of their eggs in the first 2 months. And then it drops off steeply, right? And they'll live for months after that. And so in a commercial farm like this one, even though we're small, in a farm like this, we need every square foot, every square inch dedicated to production. And when a beetle is past its production stage, where it's still laying eggs, but it's not doing it anywhere near the volume that it was in the first 2 months, we go ahead and cull those. There's nothing wrong in a much smaller colony. You know, if you've got a 3-drawer system, a single drawer, or even 10 to 20 drawers, if you leave your beetles go until they just expire, that's fine. You don't have to keep track of this if you don't want to. When we cull them, what we do right now is I have a steel food grade bucket that sits outside. It's sealed, and so we put the beetles in there. They're sealed off, they can't get out, and then the temperature heats up and eventually they die. Some other options, if you have a freezer, either deep freeze or regular freeze, you can put them in there and they will go ahead and die. There's still good nutrient sources. So the other thing we do is, when possible, we try to get those beetles to folks that can use them. So people on our road here that might have chickens or other kinds of poultry, they'll eat them up like crazy. So that's another option, is you can still feed those things, You might want to avoid feeding it to a reptile because it is a lot harder. The exoskeleton is a lot thicker and a lot harder than the mealworm is. And so some reptiles don't do well with that amount of chitin, with that amount of exoskeleton from the beetle. But they still can be used that way. In the future, what I'm looking at doing is integrating quail into the farm and then feeding those beetles to the quail and see how that goes. So hopefully that helped. If any of that needs additional context or anything, please let me know, Julie. I really appreciate you stopping by and asking a question there. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we are mobile here, so if there's anything, we're in the office right now. If there's anything you don't want to see in the farm, either in the insect room or just out here in our kind of R&D work area, please let me know. I wish the comments would stay up on the screen. I might have to figure out how to try to do that. But all right. I'm super excited because I just picked up the superworm sifting trays. They're out in my truck. Forgot to bring them in. But I just got the website updated with those. I designed, 3D designed and then printed the original ones myself, tested them, everything works out great. And then I found a local print shop here that can print them for me. My 3D printer broke, and so I'm not super skilled in how to fix those, and so I found a place nearby that was able to do it for me. I'd like to be able to continue prototyping and designing, so I need to get that thing fixed at some point. I just haven't had an opportunity with the new building in place here and us moving in about 3 or 4 months ago. All the insects came in, and I'm basically in monitor status right now with the colony to see how the building does with the AC and the heat that we're going to need. I put in a 14,000 BTU air conditioning unit for an 1,100 square foot room, and I just want to see, how that goes. We had a spell of 100+ degree weather in central Missouri a month ago, maybe, and it did okay. I did hook up a backup AC just in case, and I had that functional. But I think that the 14,000 BTU unit did all right. So I was excited about that. All right. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, if you have any more questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments here, and I'll tackle them. Sandra, maybe? Thanks for all your videos. I'm interested in using dried greens for the substrate. Have you used other alternative substrates? Yes. Actually, I just tried cannabis leaves. So I'm in central Missouri, and in Missouri, sorry, the fan's on. Let me go turn that off. I'll keep going. All right, so in Missouri, they legalize medical, and they have cultivation folks now. And so cannabis growers are in Missouri, and I just recently bartered some frass for some leaves, not the actual cannabis flower. I'm not trying to produce mealworms that enjoy the THC. But what I found, let me see if I can find one of the trays. What I found is that I was actually surprised by this. They did not eat all of the cannabis leaves. Here we go. Let me see if I can turn this around. There we go. So, all right. So you can see there, those are the cannabis leaves, and they just dried up. They were moist when they went in, and so I thought maybe that would help to, kind of draw them to that as a moisture source, because that's what happened with the first leaf that we tested with. They ate it within an hour. And so I'm surprised that those are still there. But here's a good example. Turn that back around. Ta-da. There's a good example. They're on it. They're playing with it, hopefully eating it. I'm just surprised that they didn't gobble it right up. And so, you know, that what I'm testing there is along the lines of sort of an alternative substrate. If I can get, you know, greens and other things to utilize instead of wheat bran, that one, it helps offset the cost, right? And two, in the event that there's a supply chain issue and I can't get wheat bran, I have other options. So I was really surprised. I thought they would eat more of this. They are in there, and at the end of the day, this does crumple up and, you know, can be sifted. Oop, there's a cleaner crew. We're gonna get rid of him. I'll take him off screen real quick. And so I was surprised, but the other things I've tried were primarily wheat bran here. I've tried, you can see this little pile here. That was actually earthworm feed. So my local supplier here, somebody ordered it in and then didn't come and buy it. And so they gave me a really good deal on it. And you can see just under here, you can see the discoloration or the different color there. That's the earthworm diet. So I kind of use it as a supplement. Wheat bran works though. It's cheap, it's easily accessible for me, and I haven't needed to change, but I am testing other options. You want to try to avoid things that are super fine, because the beetles don't like that. It'll work really well for the baby mealworms, but the beetles just don't like that stuff getting in under their wings and on their body. So that's kind of the stuff we've done here. The other things you can use, you know, like oatmeal, oats, flattened oats, if you can get those in bulk, those will work. They're just a processing pain because they don't sift very well. I thought I had another test here, but I don't. So yeah, hopefully that helps answer that question, and throw some more in there and I'll tackle it. The couple other things I've done in the past, as I walk back out here, I see a couple bags, is I tried barley, and they did not like that, so I'm going to try grinding it up, and then I'm going to try commodity feed, which is a mixture of just whatever is sort of left over from the processing based on the time of year. So I haven't tried the commodity feed yet. It's pelleted, so I have to grind it up. I'm going to use that grinder back there, grind it up, and then see if the mealworms enjoy it or not. Good question, though. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And I did see another comment there. Sandra, the problem here is mites. Yes. Let me stand back up, because what I want to show you is split pea flour. So try to prevent the mites. That's the big one. So either cook your substrate or put it in a deep freeze for 48 hours. Not a fridge freezer like in your house, an actual deep freeze where it gets down to zero Fahrenheit. And I do that for 2 days at least, and then that should take care of what's ever in that substrate. If you need to address a mite infestation that's happened, let's take a look at... sorry, let me turn that back around again. There we go. So this is split pea flour. So split pea flour is something you can find in most specialty grocery stores, some standard grocery stores like Walmart, Hy-Vee, Publix, things like those. They might have it in the organic section, or you can buy dried split peas. Usually they're halved, and then they're rock hard. So you do need to blend them up somehow. Depending on what kind of blender you have, that might or might not be a good idea. They are really hard. But you're going to end up with something that you need a consistency that's like this. You need it small, because those mites are tiny. And what split pea flour does is it actually kills them. So it's not bad for the mealworms. They'll eat it. They don't like it. They don't thrive on it. It's not something they're excited about. But it's pretty easy to deal with. So let me grab a bin here and I'll show you. We're going to grab these guys. And so from an application perspective, you can see there is some bran in here, and there's also frass. Okay, so this is just run-of-the-mill, something where we've got every day. And what I'll do is, you want to add at least 10% split pea flour into this tray. So I'm going to estimate that this is probably about a 2 pound, maybe the size is probably only about a pound, and the frass in there doesn't really count. So probably less than a pound, but I'll go with a pound just to make the math a little easier. So that's 16 ounces. So I need like 1.6 or 2 ounces, round up a little bit, not going to hurt anything, into this tray. And so it's as simple as weighing out that 2 ounces. And I'm just going by experience here. And then just sprinkle that in, okay? And that's going to mess with the mites and get them unhappy and dead. And then the other thing that I do, so I have a concrete floor, so I have the luxury of being able to just throw this out on the floor. If I have like zones or sections where, you know, like let's say back there, I noticed that I've got mites. What I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately stop production. I'm going to go through and evaluate, okay, how far have they gotten? Where are they? And once I find where they've stopped, I might go another row. So let's say I quickly find them there. I might come here and just create a split pea flower barrier around this. So, you know, if you're on carpet or something like that, you may not have that luxury. You might need to put down some sort of container or plastic or something like that, and then set your containers on top of that and put the split pea flower around it. But you can also apply it around so that, you know, the grain mites can climb anything. So even if your sides are nice and clean like this, this is getting a little dusty actually, but a mealworm isn't going to be able to climb this, but a grain mite will. And so they'll get out of your trays. So that's why I like to put up a barrier to deal with any grain mite infestations that happen. And they do happen. So even if you do all the preventative measures, it's one of those things that does and will happen. I've had them 3 times, and they are terrible times. You'll remember them. That's why I know I had 3. But they are able to be taken care of and eradicated. If they get super out of control, they will destroy the colony. So you do need to act quickly, but once you get things rolling, you could be able to get it squared away and get that colony back to happy. All right. Awesome question, Sandra. Thank you. And you're looking for alternatives that wouldn't attract mites. How about pea flower? Yep, we just walked through that pea flower stuff. So hopefully that gives you an option. I think split pea flower, like to use as your only substrate, is probably cost prohibitive. I'm trying to remember. I bought all mine in bulk. I bought it in 25-pound bags, and then I ground it myself. So totally different than, you know, like I remember when I didn't have that grinder, I would need to buy split pea flour, and that can get pretty pricey. So I don't think that that's going to be a good alternative from a feed source unless you have split peas or someone you know that grows them, raises them, etc. Then it might be an option. But mealworms don't seem to enjoy it very much. So it's something that if you wanted to use it as your primary feed, I would test it out first and just see the difference over a 3-month period of growth for tray 1 with just split pea flour and another tray that has no split pea flour. And as those trays grow, my presumption is that the split pea flour isn't going to be the nutrient balance that they need to maximize growth in that 2 to 3 month period. All right, let me go check comments here. Cheryl, I see something there. Thank you for being patient, Cheryl. I appreciate that. Getting ready to move my farm to a larger area. What should I focus on to increase production? What are your goals? So depending on what your goals are, that's going to really impact where you need to focus your energy. And by goals, what I mean is, are you using these for yourself? Is your flock growing and that's why you need more? Are you not able to produce enough for your current flock? Do you want to sell? You know, all those different things are going to impact what you need to try to potentially focus on. What I'll tell you about, I'm just going to reread this just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Getting ready to move my farm to a larger area. What should I focus on to increase production? The other thing, well, hopefully you can throw another comment in there, Cheryl, and let me know what your goal is, get some more context there. But one of the things I would strongly recommend is I would not change or do anything in your new larger area for at least 2 months to make sure that you've got everything stabilized and accounted for in that new building. When we moved from our old building, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from here, honestly. When we moved from that building, it was only a 500 square foot area, and we only had, I think it was only 600 of our trays fit in that building. And so when we moved into the new building, excuse me, all of our trays fit in there, and it was a much bigger area. And so I wanted to validate and make sure that the insulation was all acting as it needed to. The air conditioner was able to take care of the room in there with the insects in it. It's one thing when it's empty, but it's another thing when you have your colony in there producing heat and needing that heat and the physical space and volume that they'll take up to mess with the airflow in the room. That's all something that I would give it at least 2 months once you move in before you start tweaking and adjusting and trying to ramp things up. It stinks to have to wait and do that, but what that's going to let you do is understand what that change is, what that delta or those deltas, there could be multiple, that exist between your old farm and your new farm. You might be very used to, on cold days or warm days, you go and adjust fan X to speed Y, right? And because it's going to need to be higher because it's hotter that day, let's say. In your new farm, you might not need to do that. You might need a bigger fan. It's sort of guesswork until you get that experience and exposure into that new building with your colony. In the 1,100 square feet that we had here, we put the 600 trays in. We ran for at least a month, if I remember correctly, before we started trying to ramp things up. And then we hit that month and a half, and I want to say that's when the heat hit. And I got really stressed out personally because I thought, my goodness, we're trying to expand. I was just really stressed out. And I wish I had waited a little bit to get a bit more comfortable and experience with handling that room before we tried to ramp things up and make changes, basically. All right. I'm from Palestine. I need 1 kilogram. Can you send for me to Jordan? Unfortunately, I cannot send outside of the continental U.S. So I can only ship within the continental U.S. today. So even like Hawaii and Alaska are out. The live insects just will not make it, unfortunately. And the cost to ship it from here to external the U.S. Is astronomical to try to get it, next day after, whatever. And it's just not something that is going to be feasible, unfortunately. Sorry. Prismatic Acres. Good to see you. I'm glad you joined. We're 22 minutes in. This is recorded, so all the stuff we've talked about already will be in the recording. Great to see you, though. Let me read the rest of that. It disappeared. The chat here is just as frustrating as the chat from Facebook Live. How has spraying water worked out? Are you spraying the older worms too, or do you get crystals only? Give me just a second. I'll take a drink and answer that. All right, let's go into the insect room. Let me turn this around because you don't want to see my mug. You want to see the mealworms. All right, so what Prismatic Acres is referring to is I've been posting recently. We're going to get the sifting tower out of the way. I've been posting recently about spraying water. I just started that back up. So real quick overview. I've got a stainless steel food grade barrel. This was used for syrup. And so it's been cleaned out, heat cleaned out, washed, sprayed, etc. And now it just holds drinking water. And I've got a pump sprayer from an ATV. I bought it brand new. It's been in the farm. You can see all the dust. It was in the old farm. We sprayed there before we moved here. So it's an ATV sprayer, an ATV sprayer nozzle. And instead of the tank from the sprayer, I'm using this guy. And then instead of a battery hookup, I bought the battery pack. Got this thing off of the internet, and then just plug it into the outlet whenever I need to use it. And so what I'm doing is I am spraying my young trays. And so from a layout of the room perspective, those are all the young trays. We actually have our beetles over here partying. And so when we process, we're over here. And so we're putting all the young stuff here, and then they get older as we move to the left here or to the north. And what I'm doing is I am spraying up until, so we're looking at that tray, they're still going to get sprayed. Up until now, this tray is questionable, or this group of trays is questionable because of the exoskeleton on the top. Let's go check these guys. They've got actually a bunch right there. Let me see if I can turn the flash on here so you guys can see what's going on in there. I can't. But the exoskeletons are right in here, and there's just a big collection of them. If I were to spray this tray, these exoskeletons fly around very easily, and they're going to stick to the walls. And what that does is it basically gives a climbing wall for those insects to get out. So what I'm doing is I'm spraying up until I can see those exoskeletons on top. So these guys, I would probably spray this and just kind of see how it goes. But you can already see on the side of the tray, you can see the exoskeleton kind of sticking there, right? And so I'll probably do it this week and then they'll be done. And so really it's not a matter of time, honestly, it's a matter of looking at the bin and seeing, is this stuff, are there exoskeletons on here that are going to move around? And so we are spraying every 2 days right now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I try to avoid the weekends as much as I can. But these young trays get sprayed with water. And so far it's been working very well. One of the questions I had in the past is what about like crusting on the top? So you can see this tray here has been sprayed for the last 2 to 3 weeks. And it's definitely different in color and texture and feel, but it's not turning into like a cake. And so I'm not seeing any, negative downsides, because what's happening is those mealworms are coming up to that moisture. Once I spray, they're coming up to it and they're eating it, and it's helping to make it not turn into basically just a brick of wheat bran. So that was one of the things that was a concern early on when we started this in the old building. But now and even then, it hasn't caused any sort of caking or problems that way. But you can see, even on the other side of this tray here, you can see those pieces of wheat bran and the exoskeleton getting stuck on here. And right now, they fall off pretty easy. But it's definitely something to keep track of. You don't want these guys escaping. You want them here, getting big and bulky, chubby and happy. And I actually do need to spray today, so we can also do a quick demonstration of that and see them coming to the top. It's almost immediate. All right, there's some other questions that came in here. Oh, sorry, the last part of that question was about water gel crystals. So yes, once we hit that point where you can see you can see the insects or the mealworms are getting pretty big, and there's that exoskeleton on top. That's when they'll start to get water gel crystals. And then the water gel crystals will go all the way from this row here, basically, all the way to the oldest that way. We also give water gel crystals to the beetles and the pupation trays. I try to stay away from spraying the pupation trays because I don't want to suffocate the pupa that we haven't collected yet, that can't move and adjust. The mealworms are fine. They're able to move and adjust in the event that too much water gets on them, but the pupa can't move as effectively. So we avoid spraying the pupation trays. All right. All right. Our friend from Palestine. How much a kilogram are you in the U.S.? 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds, if I remember correctly. And so 2.2 pounds of mealworms. It's going to vary farm to farm. That's probably about 20 to 24,000 larger mealworms, medium to large. That'd be a good guesstimate there. So you're looking at 20 to 24,000 mealworms in 1 pound of live weight, not dried weight. Good question. Cheryl. Okay, have lots of beetles that need to move to wait for eggs to hatch. Shed will be 10 by 16. Okay, so you've got a ton of beetles. What I would suggest then is let them continue laying. Replace the beetle trays that age out. If you're keeping track of ages, if you're moving to a 10 by 16, it's probably, if you haven't already started doing it, it's probably a good thing to do to start keeping track of the age of your bins, so that you know when to cull them, because you're going to want to maximize that space, and you're getting to track of your beetles is going to be worth it for you. So what you want to do is start labeling your trays. We use a very simple labeling system. All it is letters right now: ZD, ZC, YU, YE. And all we're doing is keeping track then in a notebook whenever we establish this bin. So ZC, for example, today is September 16th, I think. If this bin was made on September 16th, we're going to document the name of the tray, CZ in this case, the day it started, 9/16, and then we call these after 8 weeks. So that's going to be 10/16 or 11/16, sorry. So on 11/16, that at that point when we do our beetle swap, and change this tray into a fresh tray, if it's 11/16 or right around there, we'll go ahead and cull that tray. So it's pretty simple to keep track of this. It doesn't have to be, really difficult or really hard. But I would start keeping track of your beetle trays. That way you know when to be done with a tray, because they're not going to be producing as much, and that way you avoid trays that seemingly end up empty because there's no eggs being laid in it. Start doing that if you haven't already, and then you're going to wait. Honestly, I would probably wait a month and a half to 2 months before you start tinkering with either increasing your beetle production or adjusting, because you're going to need to see what happens with the trays that you have in there and the space you have available, along with how often are you planning on changing or swapping your beetle trays. If in that 2 month period you're going to swap your trays every 2 weeks, just from a time perspective and a goal perspective, it's something that you're only able to do every 2 weeks. That's perfectly fine. That's what I did for years operating a business, doing it every 2 weeks. You're going to get, in that 8 to 10 week period that your beetles are active, you're going to end up getting 5 to 6 trays. Am I doing that math right? Yeah, 4 to 5 trays. So every week or every 2 weeks when you swap that tray, you're going to have a tray that's now your egg tray that just needs to sit and wait for those mealworms to grow. And now you've got a new tray of beetles. So now you have 2. And every 2 weeks when you add another tray, you're adding space. So if you started with 20 trays of beetles, the first time you swap, you're going to have those 20 trays of new beetles or new substrate with those beetles. And you're going to have the 20 trays that need to sit there and wait for those mealworms to grow. And then the next 2 weeks later, you're going to have another 20 trays. And so how much space, how many trays can you fit in there? That'll help you understand, should you do beetle swap every 2 weeks, or if you have time and the option, do you want to do it every week? Get into a more of an analysis mode right now while those beetles are laying, and you're kind of consistent, trying to watch the temperature, consistency, the humidity, and adjust to the season that you're in your location, to make sure that the farm is okay. Use some of that time, some of that downtime, essentially, to analyze a bit about the space that you're in, how you're going to utilize it, and the resources that you're going to need to use, including your time, to do things like beetle swap, feed, etc. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you for the context there, Cheryl. That's exactly what I was needing there to try to give some feedback. If you would like to chat more about that, obviously I'm going to be doing more lives, both here and via the Facebook co-op group, but I'm also available one-on-one. Check the website for those details. Happy to help. One of my goals is to help grow the small business insect farm opportunity in the US. So that might mean I sell less mealworms wherever you're located, but I'm okay with that. I don't want to be the mealworm person of the US. I want to help other people get to basically a stage like this. So all good stuff. I did see one more question from our friend in Palestine asking about price. Oh, sorry. So let me think about that. 5,000 from me shipped is 34. So multiply that by 4. It's going to get $120, $140 US. And then wholesale would probably be, maybe $20 cheaper than that. I'll do the math. Yeah, you're looking at about 120 US dollars for 20,000, and maybe 140 if you were to just order that non-wholesale via retail. And again, that's all live prices. I only sell live right now. I don't do dehydrated. I can't compete with prices for things that get imported into the U.S. from a dehydrated perspective. So those are live insect sale prices. All right. Crazy Kiwi, welcome. I'm glad you could join. Just kind of panning around here. We've got super worms. We've got some test trays. I actually ran out of the blue trays. I need to get some more, and so I've got an excess or overflow of beetles in these guys just to let them grow and lay eggs and get some value out of them. Ideally, we get all of our trays squared away. We're in a better place now because we got into a good cycle, a good rhythm. That was one of the things that I mentioned earlier. Kind of give yourself some time in a new location to get into a rhythm and adjust to it. And in the last few weeks, we went from not having any trays and not being able to do beetle swap, period, to getting back in our normal rhythm of, you can see here, all these stacks here are clean trays. So we'll be able to do beetle swap this afternoon, actually. Ben's gonna jump in here and tackle that. All right, we are at about the halfway mark. Again, as you guys have questions, anything you want to see more of, oh, we were going to do a spray test. We can do that. I need to get a drink of water. But anything in particular you want to see, let me grab a drink and then I'll show you guys around here, the front section. Get you that visual so you don't have to just look at me drinking here. All right, let's do just a real quick tour. We did some tray cleaning. Ben did some tray cleaning today. More clean trays, more beetle swapping. I love it. So this front area is not insulated currently. It's sort of our processing of frass / storage / R&D section. And so what we've got going on, I got wheat bran here. I've got some in the truck there. I need to unload, replenish that. That's our deep freeze. 4 bags of bran fit in that, and then it sits there for at least 48 hours or until we need it, and then it comes out, which is what these are here. These have all been through the deep freeze. We've got beetle swap today, so we're probably going to use about 2 to 3 of those. So that's why we've got them sitting out here getting warmed up. The beetles don't like the cold, the cold bran. Fridge, cold storage of mealworms under there. Not very much happening in the freezer there right now. Grinder, we've got a dehydrator, microwave dehydrator, storage supplies, bags, tools, etc. This guy up here is a frass dispenser. So it's got an opening at the top. The frass gets poured in, or in the future it will be vacuumed or dusted in there. And then it's got a dispenser here that allows us to fill down into a container with a scale so we can fill up our 10 and 20 pound boxes a little bit easier, a little less backbreaking. And then we've got storage up there. Storage up there of the frass. Various bags down here that we're going to use for frass and recycled options. Just more storage and whatnot. And the office is in there. So more frass storage and other storage there. So that's our area out here that we do all of our boxing up. And then this, like all that metal there, and there's a couple projects in the middle. We're just building, testing, fixing processes, making them better so that we can save our labor time and get better, healthier insects and more production from the room that we're in. I did see one question or one chat there that I missed from Crazy Kiwi. I love that name. How is your little handheld mealworm sifter you've been trying to 3D print like that white handheld superworm sifter going? Really look forward if you start selling them. Well, I have got some news for you. I just picked up 10 of them. I found a 3D print shop local, so I don't have to have them manufactured anywhere else. They can be printed here locally because my 3D printer is still broken. And with the move and everything going on here, I have not had time to get my 3D printer up. They're on the website right now. If you do go order one. Please let me know if it tries to charge you shipping. The shipping cost should be built into the price, and it shouldn't charge you, even if you're out in Cali or on the other coast, it shouldn't charge you any sort of regional fee, because the shipping price is going to be pretty consistent. It actually costs me, like from a mealworm shipping perspective, it costs me on average about $8 to $10 more to ship to California. And so there is unfortunately a shipping fee that gets added in through the checkout process on the website. So I think I've got it configured correctly, because I maintain the website, I built the website. Even though it's Shopify, I put a bunch of customizations in there. Actually have a degree in coding, and so I messed around and tinkered. I know just enough to probably break it and get in trouble. But if you do end up ordering one, it shouldn't charge you shipping. Can it get shipped internationally? Dang it! No, not yet. I haven't tried. But if you would like to order one, I would love to try to get it to you. So I have not shipped anything international before, but if you can reach out to me, if you want to ping me at justin@midwestmealworms.com, or chat in any one of the social media chat platforms where we can have a dynamic conversation, let's figure out how to get one of these to you, because it is here, it is sturdy, it is wonderful. I am beyond excited to have this. It's been a long time coming. I had the 3D printer up, it was functioning, I was cranking them out, it was great. And then I had a small setback and I slowed down on the 3D printing. And so I just didn't stay in tune with it. And then the printer just kept messing up and not doing so great. And it wasn't a priority. And so it got put to the side. And it's probably been, I've had this design, I've had the original trays for probably 2 years now. And I'm so frustrated that I waited this long, but we're here. I've got 10 of the white ones. They're up on various platforms. Right now it's just on the website. I'll have it up on eBay and Amazon in the future, but from our friend Crazy Kiwi, looks simple to get harvestable mealworms out of the harvest tray. These sizes are for the superworms. See how those hole or slits are larger? So these, the ones I have right now are for superworms. The mealworm tray, I need to tweak it a little bit. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I want to make the slit that's already on it smaller. It's smaller than this one, to try to keep the mealworms in. But what I found is I tried going smaller a while ago, and what I found is that it didn't sift very quickly. And so it also, like if you use anything except wheat bran or something that's very fine, the smaller slit that you go, the less it sifts, right? And so I'm really on the fence. I need to get into the testing. Now that I have a reliable place here nearby me that can print these, I need to do some more testing and tweaking of the mealworm tray to try to figure out if there's a good balance there. What I will say is that the mealworm tray does work if you do it quickly, and your expectation is not that it will stop and keep every single mealworm. Even when you sift with this for the superworms, if the superworm's too small, it's going to go through this, which is kind of good, right? Because you want to let that thing grow and get bigger. With the mealworms, I need to do more testing on it before I start pumping that thing out from buying more or having more manufactured and printed. But I'm super excited about the superworm. It works really well. I'm on the fence. The other thing I'm on the fence about with this one is right now there's only one handle and one pour spout. And so what I find myself doing is I'm holding it, I've got my thumb on it and I'm holding it while I'm doing the rotation, sifting there. And then I just pour it out this way. Because when I try to hold it this way, it's not as, it just doesn't feel as sturdy because there's more to hold on here. So I'm considering putting another pour spout here so that any way you grab it, I don't want to put a specific handhold here, because then I've got to look at it and figure out where's my handhold and then grab it. If I just put another pour spout here, it's just going to make it, I grab it, I find that piece, and now I've got a pour spout here that do my sifting, I can pour it, I still have a good handhold there. So I might tweak that a bit, but I'd like to get it out in the field and get feedback from others too. I don't want it to be just in my brain and in my small little slice of heaven here. So I'm pretty excited about that, though. All right. I almost thought I was going to drink with the cap on there. Nice little blooper, right? All right. Oh, let's go do a quick demo of the spraying. I said I was going to do that after I had a quick drink there. All right, let's turn this around. Okay, so what we're going to do is just spray this row right here, or that column, sorry. So let me get my, oh, Ben needed the plug. Sorry to twirl around on you there. Ben needed the plug for the sifter here. Crazy Kiwi, can I ask how many mealworms you harvest a week? Absolutely. It varies, right? But I think we're averaging 200,000 to 300,000 a week right now. And I can probably triple that in this facility with just time and trays, and I need to get some of the processes down to help save us on the labor hours, because some of this is just a bit time consuming. All right, this did not light up. Why did this not light up? Oh, I probably grabbed the one that didn't work. Shoot, sorry guys. Well, we get to spin around and see that view again, right? We're gonna try to do, what I was going to try to do is a quick test here of the spraying. All right. Sorry about that, I should have caught that. And I'm doing this one-handed, which is interesting. Maybe in the future I'll GoPro it. We'll see. All right. So I apologize in advance for my wonky camera work here in the event that this goes awry, but it's pretty simple. So these are the youngest trays. Well, second youngest. Those are the youngest trays. I don't spray the youngest trays directly. So they're going to get a little bit from spraying the row next to them, but I'm not going to spray the youngest ones. I give them a week to 2 weeks to start hatching, because now they'll be up here, they'll start eating. So we're going to do this whole row and just kind of give you a glimpse of what it looks like. That's it. So on an older tray, so these, remember, these are the young trays. On an older tray, I'm going to go all the way to this guy, the one we talked about earlier. I'm going to go and put a little bit more in there. I went a little slower, and it got a little more in there. And you can see how it kind of pushed that stuff and blew a little bit of it onto the side of the tray. So enough of that and enough dust, and that's going to be problematic because your mealworms are going to have a super highway out of that tray, which is not what you want. But what you can see right now is movement. So see how they're already moving around and responding to that moisture source. You guys have probably seen that if you've raised your own mealworms. When you throw a moisture source in, the bin starts moving. They sense it, they know it's there, they want to find it. So these guys are doing the same thing with the spraying. So you can see them moving around. And then the ones that are over here that are left out, where they didn't get any, they're saying, hey, we sense it, where the heck is it? And look at them moving. That's pretty cool. They're heading right to the middle where all the moisture source is. And then let's go check the young tray, because we should be able to see them moving. Oh, where is the option for the... There we go. Flash that on. Kill that battery. All right, let me stop moving and just... I'm not breathing up on the tray, so any movement you see there is going to be from the mealworms. Yeah, you can see them in there. A little... These are only about 1.5 weeks old. And so they're in there moving around, going to that moisture source. And what I really like about the spraying of the water is twofold. One, it gets the moisture across the bin. So you saw when I was spraying it, I was going across the bin and trying to spray it. Let me step back and show you what I mean. Trying to spray it along the bin, right? To get it in there. If I were to come over here with carrots, potatoes, water gel crystals, and toss them in, I'm gonna have, a piece here, piece here, piece here, piece here, piece here. I might have a clump here. And so these mealworms have to then travel to those areas and use their energy to get to that water source, and they're using it for movement instead of growth. And so the nice thing about the water spray is it gets it across, it spreads out and distributes that moisture. The other thing I like about it, sorry, I'm looking and observing. The other thing I like about it is purely from a labor perspective. I was able to do this entire stack here very quickly, right? So we can go back and look at how long that took. 15 seconds, let's say 20 seconds to do that. And so this entire row here can be done within a couple minutes. And that's prep, right? Plugging it in, I already have my water source, and I just go. If I were to need to get, potatoes, cucumbers, carrots, any sort of water gel crystals, even any sort of source, I have to take and throw in individually into there. And that just takes a lot of time. So those are the two big reasons, because my intent is to scale this up and keep the same crew, and just produce more volume. And so I need processes that are much more efficient. And so this is going to help us get there. The downside to water spraying is the exact same downside as using any sort of moisture source, whether it's potatoes, carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, all those things that you use. You want to make sure that it's eaten within 24 to 48 hours. So same thing with this water spraying as with any other moisture source. There's the potential for mold. Depends on your humidity. Right now we're running at 70% humidity in this room, and there's a high potential for mold. And so within the bin, that's why we only spray every 2 days. We could, if we wanted to, try to push that and do it every day. If they have a good consistent moisture source, that will reduce the time that it takes them to grow if they have moisture available more frequently, and in that case, every day instead of every other day. But then we've got to be much more careful about potential mold. But the same thing occurs whether you're doing carrots, potatoes, anything else, versus water gel crystals versus hydration like what I just did with spraying. It doesn't cause mold any more than if you improperly take care of your bins by feeding them too much potatoes, carrots, whatever. So it's probably my most frequently pointed out thing whenever I post about the spraying is that folks say, why would you do that? You're going to get mold. And that's why we're doing it. So boom. Hopefully, I think that was Prismatic Acres that asked about that. Hopefully you were able to see that or see it in the recording. So Kiwi, crazy Kiwi. Chat disappeared. That drives me nuts. I'll get better as we do more of these. All right. I started spraying my baby trays too. Awesome. Yeah, it can be done at different scales too, right? If you have just a spray bottle, just a standard spray bottle, you want to make sure it's not been used for anything else, right? No chemical type stuff. This is US based numbers here, but spend the 50 cents to $1 to get a spray bottle that's fresh, clean, and new, that ideally would be something that is built or made out of a product that is human grade. So no BPA, all that fun stuff, because you're going to be using it on your insects that are ultimately going to go to a feed as a feed source for something. So find something that's food grade, basically, and then you can use a standard spray bottle. That's what I started with when I first experimented. I actually just used one of the trigger spray bottles to spray a couple test bins, and it worked. So then I moved up to one of those yard sprayers. It's like a bucket or container and a pump sprayer. That's what it is. And you pump it like that to put pressure into it, and you spray it. I bought one of those brand new, cleaned it out, and then sprayed water with that, and that's what we used until we got the blue trays. So once I moved to the blue trays, which are those guys, the trays from the Netherlands that are mealworm rearing trays. That's what they're designed to do specifically. We went from, I want to say I had 400 of the dough proofing trays in that room. We went up to 600 to 700. I think 700 was a little too much. We got to the point where it was like, we're having a hard time moving around in some cases. And so we went back down to 600. But once we were at that level, we had enough that the pumps, like, you would pump it and you get 4 trays done, and then you have to pump it again and you get 4 trays done. And so that's when I switched over to the ATV sprayer, and I used the tank for that ATV sprayer. It's actually right there. That's the tank right there. I put it in storage just in case we need it again. But we use that. I want to say that's like a 10 or 15 gallon, and that way we didn't have to keep pumping one and refilling constantly. That was the other thing, is it was a 1 or 2 gallon tank and it was gone after one use. And so this guy was super helpful. And now we just scaled up, and I'm still using the ATV pump sprayer. It's the perfect volume, output, pressure, etc. I just got a bigger container, and we only refill that. I think since we started using it, we've only refilled it twice. So 3 weeks, twice in 3 weeks. So, all right. Well, hopefully you guys are getting some good stuff out of this. We're getting close to the top of the hour. So just to throw some stuff out there, if you have comments, questions, continue to put them in there. If we go over, we go over. I've got a little extra time this Friday afternoon. But this will be posted to the channel. So YouTube's going to review it, make sure everything's okay. I did make a fun motion and I said the word trigger, so we'll see how long it takes for that to get posted. But it'll be posted on the channel, and then I'll probably take snippets of it, the pieces where we talk through specific things. And I'm going to try to build out, I have this idea of like a wiki page almost, of options like water spraying, right? Like the scale that I'm doing it at, somebody else could do it at a different scale, either smaller or larger. And what are those options? What are people doing? Because one of the things that's amazing about mealworm farming is you can adapt it to what resources you have and what budget you have. If you want to use black cement mixing trays that only cost $7 to $10 versus a mealworm specific raising tray, which is approximately $25, you can do that. If you've got the space and you have the ability and maybe the resources, like maybe you have a bunch of lumber left over and you need to build some stackable units, it's easy to do. You just need to know that it can be done. Crazy Kiwi, thanks for jumping in. Hopefully we'll get to see each other again in the future. Have a good one. So that's a nugget of an idea I've got. I have a whole bunch of other things to do along with running the farm. So we'll get there. All right. If you guys have any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them out there. I think the rest of my day is going to be hydrating the farm. Fresh beetle collection. I do that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And there's something else I wanted to do this afternoon. It'll come to me. Once I walk in there, I'll see the work that needs to be done. All right. Well, we are just past the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and close things out. Thank you guys for all the awesome questions. I will get another one of these scheduled, ideally every 1 to 2 weeks. I do one of these every week for the Mealworm Farming Co-op group on Facebook, but I want to do other forums too because not everybody uses Facebook, right? So there'll be more of these. If you guys have any questions or you want to see specific topics on future lives like this and go through them together, please reach out to me, Justin at MidwestMealworms.com. I'll keep note of the topics and questions folks have asked. And then the other thing is if you want to talk one-on-one, check MidwestMealworms.com, and we can definitely get synced up and go through that. I appreciate it, everybody. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you're at. See you again soon.